This is Integrative Hypnosis, and what we're going to be doing over the course of the course is learning all different ways to change. All different ways to change your emotional states, your internal dialogue, your reactions, your interactions, all of these different things. And what I've done is I've collected a group of really cool and easy to learn techniques, processes that you'll just have. Once you leave this class, you'll have them for the rest of your life. Most of these techniques are really difficult to forget, so that you have them. So for every strategy, for every thing that you do that makes you feel in a way that you don't want to feel, I can point out to you your internal strategy. And once you know how it is you're doing what you're doing inside of your mind that gives you the result that you don't want, we have so many different ways of changing it. Okay? So many different ways. So you're going to learn techniques to manipulate your internal dialogue. Okay? One of the things most people don't realize is that things like anxiety are really hard to do without internal dialogue. It's true. I see you all thinking that, hearing it inside of your head. So once you find out what it is that you don't want to feel, we have a bunch of different ways to change what you're doing inside of your head. Hypnosis. So integrative hypnosis means I pull from everywhere, but it really is about the interaction between the conscious and the unconscious mind. And it is not the classical, you're getting sleepy and, now you're going to quack like a duck and all of that stuff, okay? All hypnosis here is self-hypnosis. Actually, I would say all hypnosis everywhere is self-hypnosis. It's an inside job, okay? And we're doing it every day, whether we realize it or not. We are going in and out of altered states of consciousness every moment. It's being here now that's hard, isn't it? Right? Because we're time traveling. We don't take in any new information without it going through the filing system to be classified, categorized, all of these things. This is how our minds work. Now, if you think of hypnosis as a state of heightened suggestibility, which is really all it is, and there's many ways we get there. So if you think about this, all that's necessary for the more classical hypnosis to be present is a state of focused awareness with what we call a bypass of the critical factor of the mind. Now, bypassing critical factor is interesting because critical factor, most people think of critical factor, they think it's the judging, analyzing, critiquing, criticizing part of the mind, which it can be. But more importantly, it acts as a barrier. All right? And that barrier, if you think about it like this, okay? Here's the way I like to show it. This is critical factor, right? And on this side is the unconscious mind. And that's about 90 to 95% of your capabilities are out of your conscious awareness. This is where all of your habits are. It's where most of your emotions come from. It's where all of your automatic processing happens. Okay? 90 to 95%. Okay? 5% conscious awareness. And that's what most people think they are. So no matter what you think you are so much more than that. So here's critical factor. Now, what we have here is the unconscious programs. And boy, we have so many. That's how we can still walk and breathe and think and process and feel, right? When we want to change, here's our 5 to 10%. A lot of times what happens is if we've got an unconscious program, let's just say I've been telling myself I'm fat for a few years, right? It's every day I'm dieting, I'm doing all this, but the main theme going on in my head and outside of my head is that I'm fat, right? That's a program, because if I feel it, I say it every day, I got to look in the mirror every day, this is what I think, I'm fat. So then one day, usually a Monday, right? It's always a Monday. Monday, I'm going to start that diet. Monday, I'm going to, just on Monday. So what happens is we make a suggestion like, I'm going to exercise. And that goes boing, and it bounces right against that wall because it does not agree with the program. Because if I got a program running that says I'm fat, fat people don't exercise, right? So there's that wrong belief. But it doesn't matter. It's in there. So too many times we try and we go up against 90% of ourselves. Okay? And really, the unconscious will almost always win unless you have ways to defeat it. And we've got many ways. Hypnosis is just one way. Okay? I'm going to share many ways of having a bigger influence and learning to utilize the 90 to 95% that's here. So that in hypnosis we go psh, and our suggestions go right in. And we rewrite programs. Got it? But please understand, we do this all the time. Now in the free intro, and forgive me, I'm going to use the same metaphor because people really get it. And if you're hearing it for the second time, know it's going in deeper. Right? So, think about what happens when you watch a good movie. You sit down in the movie theater, right? First thing you do is you narrow your focus to the screen, right? Well, we know that's step one of what we need for hypnosis, which is simply a state of heightened suggestibility. Step two, push aside critical factor. Now, we do this in a movie theater without even knowing, without even trying. It's a natural state that we've always gone into ever since we were little, and some people would call it suspend disbelief. But what's happening is your critical factor of the mind is being pushed aside. Because if it wasn't, if you didn't push aside critical factor to watch that movie, there wouldn't be a split second where your mind would let you forget that that's an actor. There's a sound crew and a lighting crew and a camera crew. There's a director and a producer. There's 250 people behind that camera. But we usually don't think about that, right? Unless the movie stinks. Movie stinks, we come right out of the trance, we're like, ugh, who wrote that, right? But here's the important piece. When you're watching that movie, now, you've focused your awareness, you've pushed aside critical factor, now you're highly suggestible, which means when they want you to jump, you jump. They want you to cry, you cry. You're smart, you know it's not real, but for those 2 hours, it doesn't matter. You are willingly entranced. Now the important piece to know, because you're going to be learning a rapid form of self-hypnosis today, as well as a few other really awesome tricks. The important thing to know is, when you're in that state of hypnosis, your brain does not know the difference between a real or an imagined event. So think about that. You're watching that movie and it starts to get scary. What happens? Right? Your brain, literally, your unconscious mind is always out to protect you. Your brain goes into fight or flight response. So you're watching a movie and it gets scary. Your brain thinks you're in trouble. Why? Because you're in hypnosis. You're in a highly suggestible state. So the brain automatically doses the body with adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, all of those stress hormones. It rushes blood to the arms, to the legs, so you can fight or flight. But we're just watching a movie, right? Heart speeds up, blood pressure rises. All this is going on when you're watching that suspenseful movie. So when I teach you the self-hypnosis template today, we're going to make movies. And you're going to be able to go into a highly suggestible state and make movies that you want to star in. Okay? That's the only rule with the movies. You got to look happy and healthy, then I don't care what you're doing. I don't care whatever wacky goals you have. You can keep them to yourself, just as long as you're healthy and happy. Those are the two main things I'm concerned with. Okay? So you'll see yourself up there in that movie achieving that goal, or working out at the gym, or doing whatever it is you choose to work on with self-hypnosis. And once you watch it, know that your unconscious mind is taking that as a powerful suggestion. And we go one step further. We float into the movie and try it on, so that your brain rehearses the pattern, so that your brain feels like you've been doing it. By the time you walk out in front of that audience, your brain just thinks it's old hat, right? So we're going to learn that, and it's really useful when you start to understand that you have been having so much more of an influence over your unconscious mind than you realize. It's unfortunate that we don't talk gently to ourselves. It's unfortunate that most of our internal dialogue is quite negative, right? How many of you actually walk around thinking, I'm such a wonderful person. God, I really did that well. I'm really good at that. I'm good at anything I really put my mind to. It's rare. I don't know if any of you saw that YouTube clip that was floating around with that little girl who was like 4. Did you see her? She's like 3 years old. She's in front of the mirror, and she is like this, staring at herself going, I love me, I love my house, I love my stuff, I love my stuff, I love everything about me, I can do anything. And I'm like, oh. And it kept going on and on and on. It was so cute. It was her daily ritual. I'm scared to see who that girl's going to grow up to be. That's amazing. But we don't normally do that. But once you realize that even when you were trying to help yourself, and you were saying things that you thought were really, really going to get you your goal, what most people don't tell you, and you know, God knows, I just got a new phone. And there was 4 manuals to go with this phone. I don't read manuals. It's just one of my things. I never have. 4 manuals. Yet nobody gave you a manual for your brain. Nobody. We have no idea. So you probably didn't know that the mind, the unconscious mind, the brain, does not process negation really well. In other words, the don't think of a blue elephant. And what happens? Okay? Negation is something that seems to exist in its many forms as a linguistic construction. It's not in the brain. So when people think that they're doing something good by saying, I'm not going to eat that chocolate cake. I don't want that chocolate cake. I'm not going to eat that chocolate cake. What is their brain hearing? Right? I want that chocolate. I'm going to eat that chocolate cake. So a lot of people with anxiety, I work with a lot of anxiety disorders. I have a lot of therapists, psychiatrists will send me their patients. So I get to see a broad range of internal strategies. And there's a few consistent things that I find, okay? Number one, as I said before, it's very difficult to do anxiety without internal dialogue, right? Number two, anxiety is probably one of the most powerful trance states. And I mean, it's a powerful trance, but how does it really start with these people? Usually they say, okay, I'm not gonna feel anxious. I'm not going to get anxious. I'm not going to get anxious. And what is their brain hearing? You know, I'm going to get anxious. I'm going to get anxious. And then they feel anxious. So then they comment inside of their head, oh shit, I feel anxious. Damn. I feel anxious. Oh no. And then in that hypersuggestible state, that suggestion goes in deeper. And then they feel even more of the anxiety. And then it gets worse. And so they comment inside their head how it's getting worse, and they compound the suggestion until it's just this loop. And it spins. Most people How many people are therapists here, or psychiatrists, psychologists? Really just a few? It's interesting. Okay. So I will gear this class in a different way. So you'll see it, even with your friends, even with your family members. Watch them when they're talking about something that makes them anxious. They'll show you how it's spinning. They'll show you their hands, their head, their feet. They'll show you. And then you'll be able to quickly flip it around, because you're going to learn that technique today too. So, integrative hypnosis is really something that I kind of just give as a label that allows me to bring in a bunch of different things. So you're going to learn a lot of neurolinguistic programming patterns here, because I think they're really, really helpful in changing the way you feel and think and act. Okay? You're going to get some energy psychology techniques, because I just look for what works. I look for what's rapid. To me, change happens like magic when you can line up the whole system. And that means conscious, cognitive, unconscious, emotional, biochemical, and energetic. And when you can get all that lined up, it feels like magic. All of a sudden, you're just not afraid anymore. So that's why I bring in all of the different techniques, because I want to get every aspect of it down. Okay? So that's the kind of overview. All right? And, I'll be giving an overview probably again and again, because the overview changes depending on my mood and your reactions. But that's the basic idea. All right? So we're going to start with a simple hypnotic template that I'm going to give to you today so that you can continue to use it throughout the course. All right? I'm going to simply show you how you can get into that state where you become suggestible to yourself. All right? You'll own it. And then we'll create the template. So we'll start there. And then I'm going to give you a bunch of different rapid techniques to change your emotional state. Many of these are standalone techniques, but I like to combine them. All right? This class is very interactive and interactive. So if you have any questions ever, just ask them. All right? Your questions really do directionalize this course. So, someone will say, okay, I have this issue. What do I do for this? And that might bring in a whole different technique for you all to share. So please, let's get comfortable here.